You're crouched behind a ridge. It's 10,000 BC. The sun is low and orange. The air smells like dust and dry grass. There's no army, there's no flag, there's no national anthem, no uniform, no general with a map, there's no reason written down anywhere for what's about to happen. There's just you, a stone-tipped spear in your hand, your heart going far too fast, and 26 other people on the far side of the water who are not from your group, and who are looking back at you. And somewhere, at some point, one of your ancestors looked across a valley at people who weren't his people and thought, they have what we need. And there are more of us than them. This is the story of how humans started waging war. Not tanks, not trenches, not the 2 world wars, not the guy in the documentary pointing at a map of Europe with a stick. We're talking about the very first time human beings organized themselves to go and kill other human beings on purpose. And why that impulse might be one of the oldest things about us. Because here's the thing nobody tells you. War doesn't start with kings. It doesn't start with borders or empires or armies or even agriculture. The urge to gather your group and destroy another group might be wired into us on a level so deep it predates civilization entirely. And the evidence for this is genuinely disturbing. Let's start with violence, because before you can wage war, you need the raw ability to kill, and that ability has been part of the human story for a very, very long time. Our closest living relatives, chimpanzees, do not just fight. They conduct raids. Groups of male chimps patrol the edge of their territory, move silently in single file, and when they catch a lone male from a neighboring troop, they don't scare him off. They kill him, deliberately, cooperatively, and then they take his land. Now, chimpanzees are not our ancestors, but we share a common ancestor with them, roughly 7 million years back, and the fact that both chimpanzees and human hunter-gatherers do this same thing, coalitionary killing, using overwhelming numbers to attack at zero risk to themselves, suggests the behavior may be older than our species. It suggests the pattern was already there before we were even human. Every early human group that ever competed for water, for hunting grounds, for a cave out of the rain, carried that same arithmetic in the back of the mind. How many of them? How many of us? But here's where we have to be careful, because a human killing another human and humans waging war are very different claims. One person clubbing another over a stolen meal is a crime. Organized groups attacking organized groups is war. So let's talk about what the archaeology actually shows. The oldest hard evidence comes from a cemetery called Jebel Sahaba, in what is now northern Sudan, dating to around 13,000 years ago. Excavators found dozens of skeletons, men, women, and children, and embedded in their bones were stone projectile points. Not 1 or 2 unlucky people. A whole burial ground of the wounded and the killed. And there's a place called Nataruk, near Lake Turkana in Kenya, roughly 10,000 years old, where the remains of 27 hunter-gatherers were found. Crushed skulls, arrow wounds, hands that appear to have been bound. One woman was heavily pregnant. This wasn't a duel. This was a massacre of an entire group in a single event. But here's the question that should be sitting in the back of your mind. Does the absence of older evidence mean war didn't happen earlier, or does it just mean we haven't found it? Because for most of human history, we were nomads. Nobody buried the dead of a raid on the far side of a river. Bodies were left where they fell, and bone dissolves. A wooden spear rots in a few centuries. Nataruk survived only because the bodies sank into a lagoon that happened to preserve them. So the absence of evidence, in this case, is absolutely not evidence of absence. There is also the Rousseau problem. Jean-Jacques Rousseau, the 18th century philosopher, gave us the image of the noble savage, the idea that early humans lived in peaceful harmony and that war was invented later, corrupted into us by property and settlements and kings. For a long time, a lot of people wanted that to be true. Then came the opposite camp, the followers of Thomas Hobbes, who called the natural state of man a war of all against all, and for 2 centuries the whole field got stuck between them, arguing over whether we are peaceful animals ruined by society or violent animals barely held in check by it. Then archaeologists started digging up sites like Jebel Sahaba and Nataruk, and the peaceful past story got a lot harder to defend. The bones were just reporting what happened. The honest modern answer is that both sides were half right, and this is the part respected anthropologists now take seriously. War and peace evolved together, over millions of years, in the same animal. We inherited the capacity for coalitionary killing from our ape ancestors, but we also inherited something else, an unmatched talent for cooperation. And here's the unsettling twist: those are the same skill. The exact abilities that let a group of humans coordinate a hunt, share a plan, trust each other in the dark, and act as one body. Those are the abilities that let them coordinate a raid. War isn't the opposite of human cooperation. War is human cooperation, pointed at another group of humans. That's why war and social bonding are tangled together at the root. Humans are the most cooperative animal on Earth, and also the only one that organizes mass killing of its own kind. The ritual, the shared courage, the willingness to die for the person next to you, that same machinery that built our tribes, is what let those tribes destroy each other. It was survival technology. The groups that could bond tightly enough to fight together were the groups that survived, which means, uncomfortably, that some of the very things we admire most in ourselves were forged in the same fire as the very worst. And then agriculture arrived, and it got worse. Once people settled down, there were things worth taking that couldn't run away. Grain stores, herds, fields, walls. War went from an occasional raid to a permanent institution. Fortifications appear. Specialized weapons appear. Weapons designed for nothing but killing people, not animals. Standing warriors appear, then armies, then empires, then the industrial slaughter of the modern age, where a single order signed at a desk could end more lives in an afternoon than every prehistoric raid combined. A hunter with a spear and a general with a map both worked with the same impulse. Almost nothing else about them is the same. So when did ancient humans start waging war? The honest answer is, we don't know exactly, and we probably never will. The physical evidence takes us back about 13,000 years with confidence, and much further with reasonable speculation. But the behavior underneath it, the coalition, the arithmetic of us versus them, the ability to turn cooperation into killing, is almost certainly far older than any grave we've dug up. It may be as old as the human capacity to plan together at all. There's something bleak and honest about that. For all the things that separate us from our ancestors, there's a thin thread running unbroken through 100,000 years, the moment a group of humans looks at another group and decides they are a threat, or a resource, or simply not us. So next time you read the news, or watch two nations square off over a line on a map, you're not watching something modern, you're watching what humans have always done, you're watching the oldest arithmetic there is.